and then hand it over to you, Jeff.
Okay. I have, my objective today is to tell you a little bit about the natural history of packrats and also about the places where they live. And I'm going to start off not in lecture form, but in walking form. Let's go for a hike. But first of all, before we go on that hike, what are we looking at here? This photo is taken from near Knowles Overlook Campground in Rabbit Valley, which is in the McInnis Canyons National Conservation Area. And what you're looking at here is the California Zephyr and the Colorado River flowing through Ruby Canyon. This wall, the wall to the left, is McDonald Canyon, and to the right, but not visible in this frame, is Knowles Canyon. So three canyons meet here. We're going to take a walk along McDonald Canyon, but we're going to walk along the eastern rim. And to get there, I drive from the campground up to the trailhead and start off on McDonald Creek Trail. And after about 3/4 of a mile, there's a place where Jufus Trail takes off, and that climbs up to the rim, and it comes just about out to here. So we're going to go on that trail, and I just wanted to see. I wasn't in the mindset that I would be studying anything on this hike. It was just a hike. So I hike with a camera, and I like to photograph pretty things. This is one of my favorites, and a big contorted juniper ghost. But this one isn't a juniper ghost because it's actually still alive. You can see one green branch, but otherwise it looks pretty much like a juniper ghost. And I just love these. Look at the contortion of the wood as it grows. And the amazing thing is that once this stops photosynthesizing and it doesn't go belly up, it stands that way, and it takes a long time for the wind and the weather to trim those branches. So it hangs around for decades. This is one of my favorite icons of the Colorado Plateau. As I was walking along the edge of the canyon, I noticed that there were a series of ephemeral streams that crossed the rim and had their own dry falls. And here's something interesting about water running across a surface. If it's running on a fairly flat surface, it will run straight. But as soon as it gets steeper and the water runs faster, then it meanders. And if it runs faster yet, it meanders more. I'm not quite sure of all the physics, but Craig Childs describes this in one of his books. It certainly is true. And so here in the foreground, it's sort of straight, and then it gets a little steeper and it starts meandering. Now, I passed over several of those, and then I came to this one, and I thought, wow, this stream is really entrenched. I'm guessing I'm on the top of the stream bank, and it's about 12 feet up. And here are all the things that I'm looking at here. One down in the canyon, that's the McDonald Canyon. Over here on the top right, where the land gets flat and there's trees, that's the campground that I spent the night at last night. And you'll see a picture from there in just a moment. This is an entrenched stream, and it's the biggest one here. And this knob is has, if you'll look at it carefully, it has about 6 openings to it. And from what I know and from what I'll share with you today, I'm certain that's a packrat cave, and I'll show you why that is evidently the case. So let's go down into this entrenched stream. Whoops. So if you walk a little bit to the east, then you see this, and there's a place over there where you can step down into the stream fairly safely and without shattering any rock. So neither rock nor body are harmed here. And then you can step into the stream bed. And once you're in the stream bed, then it looks like this. Now, I knew immediately that there was something interesting going on here. The banks of this stream have very strong sedimentary lines, and it looks like the water was able to carve through them quickly. Furthermore, those sedimentary lines have different colors. You can see an almost white, there's a deep red, and there's a rose, and so it's different layers. The stream bed looks like something different. It does not seem to be carved by water the way the stream banks were. I asked Chris Herman in CCA what he could tell me about the sandstones here. And it turns out that the stream banks are Entrada sandstone, and the stream bed is Wingate. So I thought that was interesting. Now, I had intended to go out there to the end and look over to see just what I could see in the canyon, but I had a premonition, and it actually got me to think about being prudent. From looking out there, I could figure out where I was, and I could see that, in fact, I didn't want to be standing at the lip of this dry fall. And here is why. This is a picture taken from back at the campground again, where I started out. And so I've come to the western edge of the canyon, and you can tell that this was taken in fall. And over here is an enormous alcove, and there is a black arrow that I have drawn in, and that points to the dry fall that we were just at. So that's the dry fall. This dry fall is right at the top of that alcove. And if you stand at the edge of the alcove, you're on about a 30-foot overhang. So I thought I didn't want to be the hare that broke the camel's back and ruined part of the alcove. So you'll see how close I got to the edge, not really all that close. So let's take a better look at that, the Packrat cave. Here you can see a very big opening, and off to the right, there's a smaller opening. From the big opening, you can see that the front of the cave has fallen away, and it's rubble down below. And every time there's a good flood in this stream, that material gets taken away. You can see material inside the cave is spilling out. It's all sorts of twigs and brown stuff. And I'll tell you what that, well, it's sticks, it's twigs and pine cones and cactus pads and bark. And if you look carefully, sometimes you find bones and teeth and even shiny trinkets. Don't ever put your car keys down out there. Keep them in your pocket. Now, this Wingate, or this sandstone, the Entrada, is really quite beautiful. And I want you to notice that there are layers that have many holes through them, as if they were drilled. And those are formed by water. And the more you look, the more you see. So you can see that water finds a lot of ways through there. And that is how a cave gets made. Let's take a an even closer look. The layers of Entrada are different colors. They're nicely stacked, and they erode fairly quickly. So now we're looking as close as we can, and I'm intrigued by this. To the right is this the opening to the cave, and the opening to the cave is stuffed with wood and bark and twigs and all sorts of stuff like that. And that is, and quite often you see cactus pads and cactus branches in there as well. That is what the packrat can do to discourage predators from trying to get in there. And so in this particular case, it may be too high for predators to reach, but I don't know about that for sure. The other thing I wanted to show you was, look at the edges of that opening. There's anastomosing and bifurcating columns, each one horizontally lined. You can look back into the cave, and the lines are even more prominent in there, and I can see a window in there, and support for the window. So when I looked at this for a little while, I thought, you know, it had never occurred to me that a packrat could have a sense of aesthetics, but I think this one does. And I'll say that I've seen a lot of packrat middens, and a lot of them are pretty squalid. This one is the palace of packrat middens, or packrat caves. Now the question is, who lives here? So let's go, and here's my best guess about that. This is the bushy-tailed packrat. It's Neotoma cinerea. And I did not take this photo. This photo is from the American Society of Mammalogists, and it was taken by R.B. Forbes. And the next photo is also taken by the same photographer. He's a mammologist. And so this is what a bushy-tailed packrat looks like. I'll show you what the others look like in just a second. The range of this one is enormous. And I'm told that, at least in this area, these are fairly common. The range is all of the Western states, north, all the way to the Yukon Territory in just right next to Alaska. This animal is about 16 inches long, but half of that is tail. So from butt to nose, it's probably about 8 inches long. It's an herbivore, one with a very broad diet. It will take any type of vegetation, anything green or that was recently green, even conifer needles. In addition, berries, nuts, and fungi. So it eats a wide diversity of things, and I'll add one more for during this talk. It's in the family Chryseidae, which means that its closest relatives are other rats, mice, voles, and hamsters. Packrats started to evolve 2.8 million years ago, and it looks like the last species split off from others around 11,000 years ago. Today, there are 21 species of packrats, and on the Colorado Plateau, there are 4 species. And all of the packrats are in North America and Central America. The average longevity of a rat is not very long. They live on average 3 years. So now let's go look at another packrat and see how it looks different from a bushy tail. This is the Mexican packrat. It's Neotoma mexicana, and notice the tail. It's about the same length, it's about the same diameter, but it has short hair. And so all of the other packrats have short hair on the tail. So there's at least one thing you can use to if you see them in the field to identify them. The other two species that are on the Colorado Plateau are the desert packrat and the white-throat packrat. And so the resident of that cave could be any one of these four. But as I told you, I'd bet an ice cream cone that it's the bushy-tailed. Now, how do you recognize a packrat cave? Here is a packrat cave, and there's a couple things that I want to tell you about it. First of all, I was standing on a bench of rock, and this thing was about 7 feet above the bench. When I looked at it first, I thought packrat cave, and then I thought, how does it get up there? And I couldn't find a spot that would allow a 4-footed animal to get up there. But the fact of the matter is that they are very good climbers, and perhaps a little crevice like the one starting from at the bottom of the photo and coming up to the right, perhaps that's enough to help them up. But they do seem to get into places that would, to me, seem inaccessible. What you look for is a hole jammed with wood, like this one. And inside that cave, there's going to be two things. One is a nest, and the nest is, that is where the adult sleeps. And it's one per cave, one adult. If it's an adult female, some of the time she'll be raising offspring. The males sleep by themselves, the females sleep by themselves when they don't have youngsters around. The other part of the nest is a midden. Now, packrats, when they're looking around in their territory, they will pick up all sorts of things. And they bring it in, they bring whatever they find in, and they throw it in the midden. And then what else would you do? You pee on it. So they pee on the midden, and the urine, probably the urea, crystallizes, and it slowly seals the material into something that is going to build up to look like a brown beer bottle, at least in color. And that process is called induration. So the drying indurates the material, it seals it from the air. The material in the packrat midden, all that brown stuff, and the glassy sealed stuff is called amberrat. So this process of induration can seal things off from the air and store plant material in very good condition for thousands of years. As a matter of fact, 50,000 years. And that amberrat turns out to be something that scientists can make good use of. Another way to find a packrat cave is these pellets. All of a sudden, when you're at a packrat cave, and this is now the bench that I'm standing on, I believe that this is another hole into that cave. And notice there's no sticks here. And the reason for that is that this is just about big enough for a packrat to get into, and a coyote or a bobcat or most other things couldn't get in there. So this one doesn't have to be blocked. And as the packrat goes around from place to place, fecal pellets get dropped, and they're a high concentration right outside the cave. Now we're back in the entrenched stream again, and here's another packrat cave, and it's right across the stream, but on top of the stream bank from the very beautiful one that I showed you a few minutes ago. This one looks different. I can't figure out whether this is a rock sitting that has fallen from the cliff above and sitting on bedrock, or whether it is bedrock that has been eroded and a cave has formed. At any rate, there is enough space under this big boulder to the left for a packrat to live, and so it blocks the entrance, and hence that pile of wood that you see there. So I looked around this area, and in this immediate area, I found at least 6 caves of packrats. So this is a good place to be a packrat, apparently. Though not all of them have digs as pretty as the one that I first showed you. I want to tell you about an experience that I had with a packrat. And the experience was about 6 hours before I took this photo. This photo is taken at dawn, and this is the Labyrinth Canyon Wilderness in Utah, and it's along the Green River, and it abuts Canyonlands. What you're looking out and looking at is the Labyrinth Canyon, and that's the Green River flowing through it. The sun on the horizon is just south of the town of Moab, or it appears just south of the town of Moab. I'm looking out the biggest of the windows from Colonnade Arch, and I had been over here. This is a smaller window, and over here is to the left is a smaller window yet. I had been taking a picture of the Milky Way through there, and I'll show you that at the end of the talk. My camera was set up over there, and I program it to take land shots and then star shots, and I sit down while the camera is doing its work. I could tell that it was done from one stage of work, and I needed to get up and change it to the next stage. I had just opened a granola bar, and I put the granola bar down on the rock that I was sitting on, walked over to the camera, did my work in about 30 seconds, and came back just in time to see a packrat running away with my granola bar. I was really enjoying it, and I was hungry from hiking out there. But at the same time, I was amused that it got the best of me. When I arrived that afternoon, I noticed a pile of wood, and I thought to myself, I know what that is, but I didn't think about it anymore, and I should have been more guarded about putting down some food. So anyway, a packrat got the best of me. Now it's morning, and I'm going to walk out of here and go around. Not off the cliff, but if you bear to the right, there's a safe way to get out. So I'm going to go over there, and this is morning, and I thought, I've been to Colonnade Arch about 6 times or so. I'm going to get a nice picture. And this is a picture that shows the structure itself. Now, if there's a geologist amongst you, the geologist is saying, that's not an arch. That's what we call a buttressed alcove. So it's an alcove that has holes in the front, or buttresses in the front. And you can see 2 of them right there. And there's another one off further to the left. So there are 3 windows there. You can see, if you look into it, there's another window, and that window looks straight up. If you could walk in there and turn to the left, you would find yet another window looking straight up. So Colonnade Arch, which is also called 5-hole arch, is not an arch at all, but a buttressed alcove. A buttressed alcove with the name Colonnade Arch. Here's the other thing I noticed. Look over here, that I've drawn an arrow and put amberrat, and I had been to this cave at least 6 times before, or to the arch. And this was the first time I noticed amberrat, and I thought, how could that be? That's amberrat, which is always inside of a cave, but it's clinging to the wall of a rock cliff. And apparently that rock cliff has been falling apart, and it exposed what used to be the Packrat cave, and that is at least part of the midden inside. The middens can get very, very big. They can be 20 feet deep, and sometimes there is one that's 30. And sometimes they can have considerable extent, like 20 feet across. But now this has changed the way I think of Colonnade Arch. I now think of Colonnade Arch as the home of a contemporary thief and the remains of its ancient ancestors. So packrats have been here for thousands of years, and they're still piling up wood and building amber rat at this site. Now we have jumped. We've jumped to the top of the San Rafael Swell, and this place is called the Head of Sinbad. And people come to the Head of Sinbad, I think, primarily to see the beautiful pictographs there. They're in the back of an alcove, and so the sun does not shine on them, and the sun and rain does not get them wet. So they're beautifully preserved, and here you can see an anthropomorph and also a serpent, a mysterious circle that the serpent is approaching. Those are corn plants that are being hung to dry, and that looks like some annoying little animal that is investigating the corn plants. I don't know what that would be, a rat, but it looks like it has horns. Probably something that would steal corn. But anyway, I did enjoy the pictographs, but then I also noticed this, and I think it's at least as interesting as the pictographs, and that is amber rat all over. The ceiling of the alcove has fallen in here. It's dropped, and the amber rat that was up in the cave that was above that ceiling has also dropped. So there are hunks of it all around. And then also look, and you'll see it, they look from here like little dark pebbles all over. Those are packrat fecal pellets. And so you can, I knew that this place was still alive and well. And if you follow, if you imagined a mouse or a rat walking toward that wall over there, you can see that there's wood and sticks inside the crevice there. And once again, that's the packrat building something to keep others out. Up above on the ceiling, you can see some of the midden. And as I mentioned, the middens can get very deep. We can only see this perhaps a foot or a foot and a half of it. I have been with Julio Betancourt. He's he's a biologist more than anything else with the USGS, and for years he used packrat middens and amber rat to reconstruct the historical movement of plant communities across the West. And they move in response to glacial cycles. So the last glacial cycle was at its height at about 22,000 years ago, and glaciers were receding about 18,000 years ago. And he studies how things have moved since that time. This is what he would do. He would come up here with a knife or a spatula and cut out something about the size of a Frisbee, 1 inch thick, and slide it out, put it into a paper bag, and label it elaborately, because he's going to take several of those cuts in a wall of amber rat, and then he's going to take them back to his lab and carbon date them, and that will immediately tell him when a packrat was putting down valued trinkets and peeing on them. Was it 1,000 years ago, or 7,000 years ago, or 14.5 thousand years ago. Then, once he's got it carbon dated, he puts that frisbee of amberrat into a bucket, and it doesn't take very long for that crystallized urea to dissolve, and out falls everything that the packrat had brought in. They then go through that under a dissecting microscope, and they know needles well, and they can tell ponderosa pine needles from limber pine, from lodgepole, from pinyon. And similarly, leaves and berries and twigs can be identified to species, and this is what they do with it. Julio has an entire book on the reconstruction of Western plant communities in the last 40,000 years. Here's one example. This example comes from a paper in the Journal of Biogeography, see up to the top left over there. And Jody Norris was Julio's graduate student. There's Julio Betancourt, and Steve Jackson was their collaborator in Wyoming. Now, when the glaciers were full, the ponderosa pine was not up in Colorado. As a matter of fact, if you look to the bottom of this, you see 17.4 in Arizona and 18.1. That means that those samples with, and this is a map of where ponderosa pine was at what time. So the only stuff they could find 17 and 18,000 years ago was on the mountain islands in southern Arizona and New Mexico. But 11 or 12,000 years ago, the trees had already moved far enough north to be at the southern borders of Utah and Colorado. 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, the ponderosa pine reached Boulder. Now that blew me away. I moved to Boulder in 1974, and it just occurred to me that those trees had always been there. Indeed, no, they're recent arrivals. And Julio said that the Ute and Arapaho would have been encamped in Boulder and would have been watching the ponderosa pine come over the horizon along the ecotone between the Front Range, the mountains, and the Great Plains. And they would have watched them march forward and bringing all sorts of birds and animals with them. They were 7.2 thousand years ago. They were in the Uinta Mountains around 1 to 3 thousand years ago. They were in the Bighorn Mountains, and they finally got up into Montana 1,000 years ago. And so this march took by ponderosa pine took approximately 15,000 years. And they've been able to do this for a whole spectrum of species, almost all of the trees and quite a few other things. So in fact, packrats have contributed very much of what we know about the history of plant communities in the West, which also tells you a lot about the animal communities. And the dates that they get can go back to 50,000 years ago. So that's about as far back as carbon dating is reliable, and it's about the oldest amberrat that you can find. So, but that's why packrat is one of the darlings of plant biologists. Now, here's a formation. It's a box canyon, and it's fairly close to the Knowles Overlook campground. And I saw it from the road as I was driving into the campground, and I thought, I want to go in there. And I took this picture just because I find it very pleasing, just beautiful. That's just the way I am. But then I began, once I got my photo, I thought, you know, look at the end there. It looks like those crevices are fairly dark. I wonder if there's packrats there. And I started to walk over there, but it seemed to me that the closer I got, the lousier my view was. I was getting underneath it rather than approaching it. So in fact, I explored another part of this canyon. It's a little bit off to the right from here. And so I'm going to go off to the right and I'll show you a photograph from there. And this is that same canyon system. And I've drawn in two yellow arrows there that point to holes in the rock. And those are absolutely jammed, if you look at a higher resolution, jammed with wood. So those are indeed active. They're active right now. There's a question mark further up on the cliff, and up above that and to the right just a little bit, you can see that there's an entrance and then two holes in the cliff. I don't see any wood there, but if packrats can get down to the ones that are certainly active right now, I'm certain that they can get into that bigger one where I have the question mark. So I'm not certain that they're in there, but once again, I would bet an ice cream cone that they are. This is one of the things that I enjoy doing. One, I think the cliffs are beautiful. Two, the packrats are fun. And I've done research that has been based on packrats, trying to figure out when pinyon pine got up to population around Fort Collins. I did that with Julio. And it's just one of the things I do constantly. Now, I've told you, I almost never see a packrat, but I can hear them, and I can particularly hear them at night. And I think I owe a bit to packrats, because packrats have changed my perception of canyon country. I first thought of canyon walls as monoliths of impenetrable stone. But now I realize that the water that forms alcoves and bridges has also riddled the walls with passageways and caves that have been housing packrats for the last almost 3 million years. And I find that just fascinating. So these are rats that I really enjoy. I still haven't seen too many, but even though I don't see them, I'm quite certain they can see me. Now, I did ask, or I did mention that I can hear them, and I'm often out at night. Now you might say, well, what do you mean you're out at night? What is it? You mean sitting around the campground? And the answer is no, that's not what I mean. I love to do this. It takes a little while, and it takes me to some cliff areas and areas where there's rock walls and so on. And this is Castle Rocks in Rabbit Valley. And I enjoy taking pictures of the Milky Way against nice landscapes. And I looked around Castle Rocks, and I'm not sure that this set of rocks has any packrats in it, but most rocks that I look at do. Now, I also mentioned that I had been out at Colonnade Arch to take a photo at night. And so let's see what that looks like. And here it is. This is a smaller window. It had a steep drop off, and I kept sliding down, but I got it done. And I wanted to have a decent look into these canyons. And here's the Milky Way. The Milky Way is above there. And I just enjoy pulling together moments like this so that I can remember them. And I can also remember that a packrat stole my granola bar here. So with that, I will then say that I would be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have. And Annie, I invite you in. And that's all I have to tell you about Packrats.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. And what a cute picture to end on. I forgot to mention this earlier, but yes, anyone who has a question, please type that out in the chat or the Q&A. I will actually read those aloud to Jeff and give him a chance to answer them. While we wait on some people to type up their questions, I just want to give a quick plug for Colorado Gives Day. So December 6th is Colorado Gives Day. Between now and then, if you donate through the coloradogives.org website to Colorado Canyons Association, that just ensures that your donation is matched with the incentive fund. This is a fundraiser we participate in every year to get community support for the community programs that we run. So annually, we work with hundreds, if not thousands of students, getting them outside onto their local national conservation areas. We also host a variety of adult programs, including this lecture series. So if you appreciate the work that we do and want to give back to the stewardship that goes into protecting our national conservation areas, please consider looking for us on Colorado Gives Day. That's my quick plug. And with that, we're getting some questions coming in. So we'll start with the first one. Bridget would like to know, how often, if ever, were archaeological or historical objects found in Amarat during your study? What kinds of objects?
Oh, I can tell you a story about one of my graduate students. And one of my graduate students was working out at Pawnee Buttes, and he was having his lunch, and there was an owl nearby. He photographed the owl, and he left his lens cap where he was eating his lunch. And he realized that on the drive home. And he thought to himself, it's okay, I'll be back in 2 weeks. When he got back in 2 weeks, it wasn't there. Later that afternoon, he found a packrat cave, and he crawled inside of it just to see what it was like. And he found his lens cap. And he also found a key. He doesn't know a key to what. But those are the only two trinkets that I know of, except that I know my son can give me a bunch of examples involving some cabins where the packrats get inside the cabins and they steal screws or nuts that they can pry out of. And they're usually carrying something in their mouth. So when they steal something like a metal screw, which would be shiny and therefore better than what they've got in their mouth, they drop what's in their mouth and they pick up the screw, and it looks like they're exchanging a gift, but that's not quite it. Now, the answer is to that question is I have not heard of anything really valuable or really antiquated being found in packrat middens. As far as I know, it's plant material and bones and teeth. Now, the bones and teeth, certainly any animal that dies out there is going to leave a skeleton, and the packrat will pick up pieces of that and bring it back. And that's as close to shiny as many packrats get. But no daggers, no Excaliburs or revolvers from the Old West or anything like that.
I'm going to hold out my hope that that'll be the next the next study.
I think that would be neat. And that was a very good question. I like it.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple questions kind of in the same vein. Susan, Penny, and Daryl would all like to know, how many babies do they have in a litter and how often?
I believe that the average number is 3 to 4 babies. And I'm not sure about how often, but I know that they become sexually mature at about 1 year. So as they're coming up to their first birthday, they're dispersing to find their own territories. Now, will mom give birth immediately? And I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. Nick would like to know, what is the difference between packrat nests and rock squirrel nests?
They're different species, and I'm not sure what a rock squirrel would make its nest out of, but I think once again it would be soft plant material. So I think they would be similar in that way. And similarly, I think that rock squirrels will have their nest inside a cave or a crevice or something like that. So in that sense, they're somewhat similar. But I haven't actually seen one of a rock nest or a rock squirrel.
Yeah. Dwayne would like to know, when our backpacks get broken into, are we concerned more about packrats or mice? Also, do the two species compete with each other for resources?
Ooh. I think usually, because the packrats are afraid to go out in the daytime, usually that's mice, and there's also kangaroo rats and a variety of different mice and voles, and those are the typical thieves that will take your lunch when you're camping, or your M&Ms. And if you are as silly as to leave a granola bar sitting on a rock in the middle of the night, that could be a pack rat that comes to get that. But most of the time it would be mice and jumping mice and things like that.
Okay, good to know. Well, if anybody else has questions, please continue to type those in. I actually had a question to ask you, coming from myself and some of our other staff who are into climbing, which often takes you into cracks and crevices and cliffy areas. So those of us who were talking about it, have definitely encountered packrat nests. Do you know how that recreation might disturb the packrats, and whether there's kind of an appropriate distance to try to maintain with them, or just generally speaking, how recreation around their nests and middens can affect them?
I don't think recreational climbing would bother them very much, because they certainly would be looking out to see who is climbing by their opening, or putting a boot in their opening, or something like that. But climbers aren't climbing in the middle of the night, and that's when packrats want to be coming and going. And I think they're very much used to things exploring outside their cave, whether it's deer or bighorn sheep or coyotes or foxes, and it's historically been wolves. So I don't think that climbing is any threat to packrats, other than it will keep them interested in something.
Yeah, I'm sure the shiny gear that you might be taking up if you were doing something big, if that goes missing, you know where to look. Okay, we have a few more good questions. Penny and Daryl would like to know, who is their biggest enemy?
Let's see. For things coming to the cave, it is bobcats first and coyotes second. Historically, you would have, I think, put in wolves, and maybe it'll be in another 20 or 30 years, wolves will be listed as well. But I think a bigger threat is when they're out and about at night. Owls go after packrats, and I think owls are very efficient predators, and they're nearly silent. So I'm going to guess owls take a lot, and then the snakes. the various sorts of rattlesnakes, and also some of the colubrids, like a rat snake or something like that, is also going to be waiting for them. And from what I've read, rattlesnakes would be a big threat. So they have to rely on their eyesight, and I don't know whether they'd be able to smell the presence of snakes, but the snakes would be a real predator for them.
Well, you did a good job of answering Penny and Daryl's next question that came in while you were talking, which was about snakes. So our next question has to do with personal problems with pack rats. So how do you get a pack rat to leave a cabin that is not used all the time?
Wow. The University of Colorado's Mountain Research Station has about 25 cabins up at the mountain station. And once a pack rat gets in there, it is awful to get them out, and it's awful to live with them because they're up all night stacking wood and dragging in all sorts of trinkets, and there's just noise continuously at night. And yet it's a real travail to get them out of there, to get them to leave. I don't know what works best. And I should have asked Bill Bowman, who is director of our station for 18 years, do they try to trap them with traps? I have heard of have-a-heart traps. So the people up at the station would not want to poison them and would not want to put them in a trap that crushes any part of them. So they would use have-a-heart traps. But I think they can, once you release them, you've got to release them an incredible distance, or else they'll just walk back. So that is a persistent problem. I think the people that can do it more efficiently are the ones that are a little bit more calloused and are just perfectly willing to kill them. And it sounds like the people asking that question don't want to do that. And I can't blame them. But on the other hand, I wouldn't want to share a cabin with a pack rat.
Well, after the snake question, I was thinking maybe make your cabin a little friendlier for snakes. We also got one suggestion of a pet bobcat. So there you go. Some biological control. Another question, how extensive are pack rats in urban environments?
I haven't heard of that at all. So I don't think they like it, because they need to be out and about at night gathering plant materials. And if there's, and now maybe suburbs, they could manage there, but I haven't heard of them moving into suburbs. I have heard of them coming from the woods to the mountain station, but there the cabins are all among the woods in the trees. So I haven't heard of anything for example, in Boulder, and I live toward the edges, the western edge of Boulder. So I don't think they want to be in town. Just not enough food for them.
Yeah. Well, we'll give it another minute in case anybody is typing a question currently. I know I certainly learned a lot. And oh, here we go. Do you have to worry about hantavirus with pack rats?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. Now, historically, hantavirus is by the sorts of little mice that are in a cabin or an outhouse or something like that, not usually a pack rat. And I haven't heard of any hantavirus being with pack rats. You caught me flat-footed on that one. I honestly don't know whether they have or carry hantavirus. Neither have I heard of them having the Black Plague, which prairie dogs get. And it's moved from prairie dog town to prairie dog town by their predators, the coyotes. But once again, I haven't heard of anyone mention that with the packrats. Good question.
That
Not
is
a
a
very
good
good answer. Very close to, I don't know.
Well, you shared another interesting fact about the Black Plague, so it's a good substitution. Well, I think with that, unless we get another last second question coming in, I'm going to go ahead and just wrap us up and say thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and your anecdotes about your fun evenings with those pesky little packrats. It's certainly just, one of those things you have to get used to out here in the canyons, knowing whose home you're in and what they might think of your campsite. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to do this lecture for us tonight. For everyone still on the meeting, this recording will get posted to YouTube and you'll get an email from me with the recording. So thank you all for being here tonight and enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving week.
And thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it.
I'm glad. Gonna end the recording now.
Okay.